Hello everybody, welcome to the inaugural episode of Life of Barney. Just trying something different, gonna do some barbecuing videos maybe. I might do some fishing videos in the summer when we go up to the cottage. I haven't really decided, but I do know that my family has an old chuck roast recipe that we do in the oven, and I got a Weber Smoky Mountain 18-inch smoker for my birthday this past year, and I thought, why don't we give it a shot on this blade roast, also called chuck roast. There's different types of cuts, not part of beef, but I got this from Bloomer's Family Farm out here in Ilderton, Ontario, and I'm going to walk you through the process on how we're going to smoke this. Now, I've already washed my meat with soap and water. No, I'm just kidding. Please don't ever wash your meat or rinse it off. And if people want to know why, maybe I'll talk about that in another video. But I've patted it dry just with some paper towel. We are going to season it, and just to give everybody a run of how the recipe will work, we're going to be smoking at about 250 degrees on the smoker for about 6 hours. Then we're going to wrap it heavy-duty tinfoil for another 2 hours, so it can braise or melt down in its own juices, and that'll help it to really break down and be extremely tender by the end of this whole 8-hour cook. We'll probably let it rest for almost an hour after that. So this might actually be a whole 9-hour effort, but this is my first time doing this and you're coming along for the adventure. Step one, we're going to season it. I have salt, pepper, and garlic. And the thing about beef is it needs seasoning and it can take the seasoning. So I'm just going to combine all these in a bigger bowl. All right, so we have quite a bit. I want to mix it up pretty good because I don't want any, overly peppery spots or overly salty spots, whatever the case. There we go. You are going to want to, a lot of people say you want to rub it. I find whenever you rub seasoning on meat, it has a tendency to rub it away. So what I like to do when I'm seasoning meat for the barbecue is I sprinkle it on and I push it in or pat it in. The meat itself, any of the juices will help hold it on, but I personally don't like to rub it. But I'll show you guys my method here real quick, and then we'll get this done and we'll move out to the barbecue. You want to be nice and generous. You want to get all the sides. Make sure you pat it in pretty good. You don't want any of it falling off. I think you guys get the idea. I'm going to finish this up real quick. I will meet you guys back out at the barbecue. See you in a couple minutes. I've got the barbecue already going. I know I didn't really show the lighting method. Maybe that's something I'll show in another video at another point if people are interested. Today I'm using Kingsford Blue briquettes. They will probably last a bit longer than lump charcoal. They don't quite burn as hot as lump charcoal does. Again, the focus of the video is more on the chuck roast, or the blade roast rather, getting that done, not so much on the charcoal I'm using, but if anybody was wondering, yeah, Kingsford Blue. I'm going to be putting some applewood chunks on here. I mean, really, you can use whatever kind of wood you want for smoking. I'm going to be pretty generous because this is going to be a long smoke. Some guys like using the small chips. Some folks use like huge, much larger than this pieces of wood. You can use pecan. Is really popular with beef. I just happen to have this bag of applewood and I haven't really been using it, so I figured, you know what, this is a good excuse to really get rid of something that I'm not using. I'm sure it's going to taste great. I've seen videos of guys using cherry wood and whatnot. I mean, it's barbecue, so do what you like, and if it turns out that you don't like it, don't do it again. All right, that should be good for now. We're going to assemble the Weber Smoky Mountain. I've already put my 2 grills in here. I also have the water pan inside, and I have filled it about halfway. There we go. I have all 3 bottom vents going. This is probably not up to the 250 degrees Fahrenheit that I'm looking at. That's fine. And just to comment on the water pan, you'll find a lot of people have differing opinions on what to do with the Weber Smoky Mountain water pan. Some guys say use it, some guys say don't. Some say just line it with tin foil. You know what the nice thing about other people's opinion is? I'm going to be leaving the lid open for the entire duration of the smoke. Once this gets up to about 150 degrees Fahrenheit, I'm going to shut the bottom vents down about 75% of the way. I think it was T. Roy Cooks once suggested, take a pencil and close the vent down onto the pencil, and that's about the perfect opening for, there you are. That's about the perfect opening to hit that 250 smoke zone temperature. Anyway, the longer I take, the more this is going to heat up. It's time to get the meat on. There we go. Get that guy on there. That's perfect. Lots of smoke. This is great. There. Close that up. And I'm going to go back in the house and get the remote thermometer. I can keep taking a look out here, but basically I want to monitor the lid temperature. It's easy to see the large 4-inch River Country thermometer from inside the house if I don't want to keep coming in and out. But at the same time, I've got one of those remote thermometers with, I don't know, a 100-foot range on it or something. So if I want to do some chores in the house or work out in the garage, I don't have to keep coming back out to check it. I'm going to go get that ready, set it up, and we'll check back in with you guys soon. The thing about this type of recipe, even when you do it in the oven, it's not about the temperature of the meat. It's a time thing. Like most things you're doing on the barbecue when you're smoking something, it's the length of time at a temperature, not necessarily the temperature the meat will come up to. We're still going to hit a meat stall at some point in this cook, which is why it's going to take as long as it does. I'm not really going to care about the internal temperature. I might check it just to make sure, just to check for doneness, I guess, but I'm really going to be looking at the overall heat at the top of the barbecue and make sure that that sits in that 250 range. Hey everybody, welcome back. You will notice I am wearing an additional piece of clothing. That's right, I put a watch on. The important thing about barbecuing is to keep an eye on the time, especially when you're smoking, because if it's going to take a long part of the day, it's very easy to lose track of time if you start getting involved in other stuff. So during the break, I already went to the gym with my wife. I did some things around the house. I took the dogs outside and played with them. We're actually just coming up on the end of 4 hours. So we've got about 2 hours left before we're going to wrap it. And I just had the realization of a couple items. Number one, I never put a drip pan into the barbecue to catch some of the drippings. So we're going to go slide this underneath on the bottom rack in an effort to catch some of the juices that fall so we can use them later when we start pulling the beef to re-moisten it. Hopefully there's sufficient drippings that come out that we can actually work with. If not, it's not the end of the world. Hey, that's barbecue, everything changes. Also, I'm doing just a very light spritz. I know there's, at least based on my research, all kinds of ideas whether you do or you don't. If you put too much, it'll wash away the rub that you put on there. Honestly, the thing's been on there for 4 hours. We're gonna go outside right now and have a little viewing. And if it's got a nice bark on it, then I'm going to go ahead and spritz it a little bit. We can give the bark a feel, make sure it's getting nice and hard. If it's not, I'm just gonna forego the whole thing. But real simple. I only have this small little bottle. It's more than sufficient. You don't need these massive bottles, but apple juice and apple cider vinegar, half a cup of each, should fill up about half of this bottle. So we get out old Stabby here. Done. Okay, so it wasn't half, it was the whole bottle. It's not the end of the world. It'll do the trick. All right, I'm gonna close this up. I'll meet you guys outside and we're gonna slip this pan in and have a viewing of the beef. See you in a bit. I gotta say, I'm really happy with this thermometer. It's pretty easy to see from inside the house. I do still have the remote hanging off the side, but I haven't touched the vents at all. This thing's been locked in at 250. It fluctuates maybe plus minus 5 or so degrees just as different parts of the charcoal light up. But hey, it's looking good. Here we go. Time for a little bit of a viewing. We'll see if it's worth putting any spritz on or if we're just gonna leave it alone. Moment of truth. Oh yeah. That's looking pretty good. Yeah, the crust is, or not the crust, sorry. The bark is setting pretty good. It's got a little bit of a crunchiness to it. I see lots of liquid, which is good. We slipped that pan in there before getting the camera on. It looks like it's catching the drippings. So we're just going to give a little squirt. If you give too much, it creates too much moisture on the outside and will actually cool the meat. There, perfect. Might be too much, might be too little. I don't know. I have to do more research and figure it out. But for now, that's it. Now we're not going to touch it. Another 2 hours. We'll come back, take a look, wrap it up in some heavy-duty tin foil, and another 2 hours back on the grill. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. We are now 6 hours and 20 minutes into this smoke of the blade roast. And it's now time to get the roast off. We're going to wrap it, and then it's going on for another 2 hours to really render down the fat, make that meat nice and tender, super juicy. Let's get to it. I put a couple healthy slices of butter on the top of the roast there, just so it melts down. It adds a little moisture and a little bit of flavor. Also took that spritzing bottle and I spritzed a generous amount of liquid, not on the roast, but in the bottom of the tin foil. Now, look, here's the thing though. Unfortunately, you can see from our little drip pan, I waited too long to put that in, but I guess we can always give that another shot in another video. There's still a lot of heat in there though. You might be wondering, if I'm wrapping it, why am I putting it back on the barbecue? Well, it's a totally valid question because, as I pick up all the things I dropped, the barbecue adds no value at this point. With the tin foil wrapped over the meat, you're not getting any extra smoke flavor. And you probably don't want any extra smoke flavor at this point. If you keep adding it after meat gets to a certain point, it gets bitter apparently, according to my research and my own experience. I keep adding wood chips, but excuse me, the thing with charcoal is if it's already lit and your barbecue's already warm and you still need a couple hours worth and you've got charcoal that's going to last a while, why not just put it back on the barbecue and let the barbecue do the work? So that's what we're going to do. If the charcoal runs out, I'm not in the mood to totally relight my barbecue. We can just throw it in the oven for the last couple hours if needed, but we're still aiming for a temperature of 250-ish for another 2 hours now that it's wrapped, and then it's got to rest for another hour. So as I said in the previous video, we're sitting now, we're at 6 hours and 35 minutes. We'll check in with you soon, but otherwise, hands off, don't touch it, let the Weber Smoky Mountain do its thing. Folks, at this time of day, it is now just about 5:30, which is beer o'clock in my books. This is a perfect time for you to go make your appetizers, get your vegetables ready to go in the oven or in a skillet or whatever. Grab a beer, enjoy the rest of your time. This thing's going to autopilot for a little bit. We'll be back with you in a little while. Another 2 hours wrapped on the grill, just so it can simmer in its own juices and do a little bit of melting of the fat. And then another hour and 15 or so minutes just resting. Enough of that. Let's rip into this and see how it turned out. It smells amazing. Look at that. Fantastic. Oh, man. Oh, yeah. Yep, I'm happy with that. Let's just dive into it. Here we go. The moment of truth. Oh my goodness. Super tender. Look at that. Oh, that's awesome. That's some... Oh my goodness. Here we go. That adds a lot to the flavor. Here we go. Give it the little squeeze test. Oh, it's super juicy. I've just watched a bunch of guys on YouTube, did a little bit of research on Google, talked to some family members that understand barbecue, and I just go from there. But this is way better than I ever expected my first attempt at something like this would go. Okay, it's not quite as tender as we've seen in some videos online. But if we look closely here, there's actually some hints of a smoke ring anyway. There, look down here. We have a bit of a smoke ring. You can see it along the outside. That's awesome. That's awesome. All right, fast forward. I can't wait anymore. It's time for a taste test. Nice juicy piece. Good smoke ring. A little bit of the bark on the outside, which I'm really happy with how it turned out. It is nice and firm, by the way. Here we go. That's awesome. Honestly, the moisture is there. I mean, the flavor is there. I'm pretty impressed. Salt, pepper, garlic. That was it. You guys watch me put it on. Look, even if there are some improvements, I'll give it another try another time. But right now, I'm hungry. I'm going to throw this on a bun with some coleslaw. Hit the like button. Subscribe if you haven't. Share it with your friends. Honestly, it's a great help. And I hope to make some more videos for you. And leave a comment if you have any suggestions down below. Talk to you later.